At 61, Johnny Depp has begun speaking in a way he never allowed himself to before. Not loudly, not defensively, but with quiet honesty shaped by years of loss and reflection. After decades under Hollywood's spotlight, he admits that the life people imagined for him was never the one he truly lived. Fame offered visibility, but it never protected him from pain, misunderstanding, or isolation. For years, he carried wounds that success could not heal, choosing silence rather than explanation. What he shares now is not a plea for sympathy or validation. It is an attempt to reclaim parts of himself that disappeared long before audiences noticed he was gone. This chapter is not about reinvention for applause. It is about truth, survival, and learning how to live without performing for the world. The quiet disappearance from Hollywood. In 2023, Johnny Depp made a decision that stunned longtime observers of his career. Without farewell interviews, red carpet appearances, or public statements, he quietly left Los Angeles and relocated to Somerset, England. One day, he was a constant presence in entertainment news. The next, he was simply gone. Fans searched for sightings. Media outlets waited for explanations that never came. For months, there were no confirmed appearances, no events, no headlines. But this disappearance was not dramatic or calculated. It was deliberate. Depp later shared that he wasn't trying to vanish. He was trying to heal. After years of scrutiny, rejection, and public judgment, he needed distance from the noise that had defined his life. Leaving Hollywood was not an escape. It was an act of self-preservation, finding stillness in Somerset. Life in Somerset was intentionally simple. Depp settled into a quiet routine, far removed from the chaos he had known for decades. Mornings began early, often with slow walks, reading outdoors, and long stretches of silence. Those close to him said he spoke very little during his first months there, not from anger, but exhaustion. For a man whose face and life had been endlessly examined, the countryside offered anonymity and space to breathe. There were no expectations, no cameras, no need to perform. The absence of constant judgment allowed him to reconnect with ordinary moments he hadn't felt in years. This stillness did not erase the past, but it gave him room to process it. In that quiet, something inside him began to rebuild, painting what words could not say. While the world speculated about his future, Johnny Depp turned inward, expressing himself through art. Painting had always been part of his life, but after 2022, it became essential. In Somerset, he poured emotions he couldn't articulate into canvas, creating work that was deeply personal and reflective. His paintings carried fractured imagery, muted tones, and haunting symbolism, capturing the inner state of a man who had endured loss and public misunderstanding. When his collection A Bunch of Stuff debuted in 2024, audiences were surprised by its raw honesty. These were not works designed for attention, but for release. Critics described the collection as emotionally heavy, almost meditative. For Depp, painting was never about praise. It was about survival, a way to process grief privately without interruption. Art beyond fame and applause. The response to Depp's artwork revealed something unexpected. Even outside film, his voice resonated. Collectors connected not to celebrity, but to vulnerability. Sales exceeded expectations, yet Depp remained detached from the attention. He viewed the success not as validation, but as confirmation that honesty still mattered. Art gave him a way to exist without explanation. Each piece reflected years of emotion he had kept buried while navigating public judgment. Friends noted that painting allowed him to regain control over his narrative without speaking publicly. It was expression without confrontation. In a world that had demanded constant answers from him, art offered freedom. He wasn't trying to be understood by everyone. He was learning to understand himself again, quietly and without compromise, returning to music as healing. Music had always been Johnny Depp's first love, long before acting brought fame. So, it was natural that it returned during his healing. Rejoining Alice Cooper and Joe Perry with Hollywood Vampires, Depp stepped back onto the stage, not for validation, but connection. This time felt different. His performances were calmer, more focused, shaped by reflection rather than excess. Audiences noticed the change immediately. He no longer chased spectacle. He played with intention. Music became grounding, almost meditative. Bandmates described him as thoughtful and reserved, often sitting alone with his guitar after rehearsals. For Depp, music was no longer escape, it was balance. Through sound, he found a way to express emotion without reliving chaos, allowing creativity to become a form of peace. Choosing a healthier path. As Johnny Depp rebuilt his inner life, he also made quiet changes to his physical well-being. Without public announcements or dramatic declarations, he chose sobriety and routine. Friends observed steady improvements in his energy, focus, and presence. He adopted simple habits: early mornings, walking, reading, and maintaining a structured day. These choices weren't driven by image or career pressure, but by necessity. Years of stress had taken their toll, and he knew he needed to care for himself differently. Those around him described a calmer, more grounded man, no longer ruled by extremes. His health improvements reflected something deeper, a renewed sense of responsibility to himself. For the first time in years, his life felt stable, not because the world had changed, but because he had. Facing the past without reliving it. The most painful chapter of Johnny Depp's life involved years of legal battles and public scrutiny that reshaped his career and reputation. For a long time, he chose silence, believing the truth would eventually emerge. Instead, that silence left space for judgment and exclusion. Studios distanced themselves, and opportunities disappeared. When he finally spoke in court, it was not to seek revenge, but clarity. The legal process brought resolution, but not relief. The emotional cost lingered long after the verdict. Depp later shared that the experience left him deeply exhausted, not triumphant. Clearing his name closed a door, but healing required something else entirely. Moving forward meant acknowledging the past without allowing it to define the rest of his life. A man changed by stillness. After everything, Johnny Depp did not return to the world as the same person. Life in Somerset reshaped him in subtle but profound ways. Locals spoke of a man who moved gently, spoke kindly, and lived quietly. There was no urgency, no hunger for attention. He had let go of the need to defend himself. When asked about his past, his responses were measured and calm. There was no bitterness, only acceptance. This transformation wasn't sudden. It was earned through reflection and restraint. The chaos that once surrounded him no longer dictated his identity. He wasn't rebuilding a career. He was rebuilding a life. And for the first time in decades, that life felt truly his own. Returning to film. On his own terms. Johnny Depp's return to cinema was careful and intentional. When he appeared at the Cannes Film Festival in 2023, it wasn't framed as a comeback, but a quiet acknowledgement of endurance. The reception he received reflected respect, not spectacle. From that point forward, Depp became selective, choosing roles based on meaning rather than scale. He sought characters shaped by complexity, not image. Directors described him as deeply present, focused, and thoughtful. There was no urgency to reclaim status. If he worked, it would be because the story mattered. This approach marked a fundamental shift. He was no longer chasing relevance. He was choosing authenticity, allowing art to guide him rather than expectation. Living beyond the spotlight. Today, Johnny Depp's life looks nothing like the one people once imagined for him. He lives quietly, creates deliberately, and speaks only when words serve purpose. Fame no longer defines his identity. Stillness does. At 61, he is not attempting to reclaim the past or rewrite history. He is choosing peace over noise, depth over attention. His journey has been shaped by loss, misunderstanding, and resilience, but also by growth few ever witness. Whether he continues acting or not feels secondary now. What matters is that he has reclaimed ownership of his life. Johnny Depp is no longer chasing a career. He is living deliberately, honestly, and on his own terms.